Hey guys, and welcome back to Regrets It. Brexit England, Northern Ireland, and Eastern Europe. And in Brexit England, it seems we've got the fallout from the ULEZ because I've read a study, and it seems that this is going to have a massive effect on the NHS, where the ULEZ is expanded out, out as far up as the M25. So that covers Greater London. But I mean, this is not like just a London centric story, because there are these type of zones in other parts of the country. I believe Manchester, Bath, I think Leeds, I think Newcastle as well. Right, so there are these things all over the place, and obviously, right, this is having a direct effect on the poor and the working classes the most, because obviously it's gonna hit the most, because it's an extra 200 and something pounds a month to drive your vehicle if your vehicle is not compliant. And for a diesel, I think it's 6 or 7 years. So obviously, there's so many really good diesel cars out there that's like 7, 8 years old, and so they won't be compliant anymore. Because I think I know for a van you've got to have like a Euro 6 engine. So I imagine for a car it's probably going to be a Euro 5. I don't know. I'm not. I'm just speculating on that because I haven't looked it up, right? But as I said, the fallout from what's happening with the with him extending the ULEZ, what the report is saying. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to have people who will not be able to care for the people that they're caring for at the moment, because they're not going to be able to pay the extra money. So obviously they can't drive into the zone. They won't be able to drive into the zone, and to get and then public transport is probably going to be quite expensive as well. And if they've got to carry kit or whatever, then it doesn't. It makes it really, really difficult. So they said, so now a lot of these people are going to have to rely on the NHS. So this is going to put an extra burden on the NHS now. But you see, all of this it's just a complete false flag, and it really just gets on my nerves the way how they're doing this, right? The reason why they've got to do these things, right, is because they've sold off everything in this country. They've done this to this country. They've done this. It's all about them, right? All of these politicians. They've sold off all of our stuff, right? And now they need to find new initiative ways, right? So that they can come up with ways of getting more money out of us. Even though we're going for a cost of living crisis, right, on a cost of living crisis, right, says, you know what, yeah, let's see if we can get another like 200 and whatever out of them a month. Let's see if we can do that. Who does that to you in a cost of living crisis when we're in a country, right, where people are having to go to warm banks? Right, forget the fucking food banks. People need to go to warm banks, because you know what? They go to the food bank and get the fucking food, but they can't even sit in their house to eat it because it's too fucking cold. Not the food, their house, because they can't warm the food up anyway. Right, but and then this man wants to go and impose more sanctions on us, right? And all because, right, these people have sold off everything. Just look at the Dartford crossing, for example. Sold it off years ago, right? But Dartford crossing it's got to take between what, 600 and 800,000 pounds a day. A day. Do you know what I mean? And then why would you sell that off? Because all that money should be just coming back in our economy. All of it, every penny of it should be. But no, it's going to, I think the French own it, but it's going to France. Tunnel between Thurrock Council and Gravesham. I think Gravesham might be Dartford. I don't know, because Dartford and Gravesham, they might be around. But those two councils should be getting that money from that bridge and that tunnel. Right? And then we've got the sell off of all of our utilities. All of that money, right, that's swilling around in those utilities should be staying in our economy. It shouldn't be going outside of our economy. Once it starts going outside of our economy, they have to come up with new ways of taxing us. Because you know what? All that money is going outside. Right? You've got the water sold off. Again, same thing again. All of that money, right, should be going straight to the government coffers. Shouldn't be going nowhere else. Because once it does, right, then what happens is eventually, right, all of the chickens will come home to roost. And that's what's happening in this country. That's why this country is in such a mess, because they've sold off everything. They've sold it all off. Right? So now they've got no money coming in. The only money they've got coming in is from us assholes. Right? And they will treat us like the jackasses that we are, because we, when I say we, I mean you, keep on voting for the motherfucking Tories all the time. Right? And they're the people who started all this selling off of all of our shit, right? All the train lines, right? And they say to you, yeah, but train lines don't take any money. Well, why the fuck would all the French and the Germans and the Spanish be interested in our motherfucking train lines if they didn't take any money? Right, because these things get subsidies as well. You think Richard Branson would be running Virgin Trains, right, if he wasn't getting man's getting subsidies to run these train lines, right? He's had billions of our money, when all of that money, right, should be our government, should be going back into our government's coffers, because none of these things should be in anybody else's hands, right? Even the hospital car parks. Come on, man, seriously. No wonder they have to bring in things like the ULEZ with some false flag, right? When I was at school, kids had asthma. Right? So all of this nonsense, right, when they're talking, listen, I believe in climate change. Of course I do, because it would be stupid not to, right? But, doing it to us in this way, right, for me, is like, you know what? Because if every single one of us said, you know what, okay, right, what we're going to do is we'll all get compliant cars. There's not enough about. Right? And in a few years' time, right, they're going to start talking about, all of this lithium that we've been digging up has not really done the world any good, any favours, right? Because now, all we've got to get rid of it. Right? So all of this, right, so much of this is so much of a false flag, because they are the people, right, who have destroyed the economy in this country, and they have got no other ways, right, of bringing money in. I mean, it's not even as to say, that they're running train lines or gas companies or electric companies or bridges, toll bridges in other countries. No, other countries are doing that. Because you know why? Other countries have got politicians, right, who are competent and understand, that you can't put all of this burden on your people. We have to come up with ways, right, of making money for our country that doesn't involve, right, sticking it to the people of the country. Why can't we have politicians like that? Why is it that our politicians all have to be a big bunch of motherfucking idiots? And welcome back to By Any Means Necessary. Thank you so much for all your messages sent me, and a special thanks to everybody who signed up to my channel. I feel so blessed with so much people that signed up, so thank you so much for that. I'll go for all your messages. I'll answer as many as I can, but I will like all the messages for definite. And it seems that Donald Trump the other day, he had a dinner or a lunch, right, with Kanye West and a guy named Nick Fuentes. Now, I don't know if you know much about Nick Fuentes, but this guy he's a far right extremist. I mean, he's very far right. Even the My Pillow guy was like, this motherfucker's really he's off his head. And Mike Lindell is off his head. And if Mike Lindell thinks that you're off your head, then you know what, you haven't taken your meds for that day. But this guy, Nick Fuentes, because he's like one of them Holocaust deniers, which, before I just laugh at Holocaust deniers, I just think, fucking idiot. Do you know what I mean? You know what? I've been to Auschwitz, so I understand, right? I understand quite a lot about the Holocaust, right? So, I just used to like, when I used to hear people like, Holocaust deniers, I just think, this person's an arse. Do you know what I mean? And they're not even, they're hardly worth even listening to. Obviously, but the Jewish communities take it a lot, used to really like go at it, do you know what I mean? But, obviously recently, right, where, we've got people like Kanye West saying like, that slavery was a choice. And, I really would need to question my forefathers on the choices that they made. Because I'll be like, well, why the hell would you choose, right, to have your wife, your mum, your sister, your daughter, your auntie raped right? And you get yourself whipped and have men chasing through, through forests on horseback after you. I mean, why would you choose to be shackled? Why would you choose those things? I would love to ask my forefathers that, Kanye West. But then obviously you've got people like Ron DeSantis, right? And this is where it really hits home, where you've got people like Ron DeSantis trying to change white people's role in slavery to, well, they was helping black people out. Now, when you've got Holocaust deniers and you've got people saying, well, actually, slavery wasn't about that, It was white people helping black people out, or it was a choice that these people made, then, I can, it makes me even more be able to understand how Jewish people will feel, right, about someone who thinks it's okay to deny the Holocaust, right, because where I just thought to myself, well, the person's an idiot before, do you know what I mean? I have a completely different view on it now, because I understand, right, that, you can't just say that these people are just idiots for that type of thing, do you know what I mean? Like, because it's, for me, it's a lot more serious than that. It's much, much more serious than that, trying to deny, historic events, what's actually happened, and, and we have, I wouldn't even say proof, do you know what I mean? Because we don't need proof. We know exactly what happened, so, Donald Trump, hobnobbing with these type of people is not really good. And so much of the Republicans, have not come out and condemned this. Obviously Donald Trump has, he's just come out with his normal stuff. I don't know. I have no clue who this man was. And say, well, that you can't just walk in off the street and see Donald Trump, right? He's going to start, well, these people just turned up with Kanye. Well, Kanye West was invited. So you're inviting the guy who thinks that, that slavery was like a choice, and an anti-Semite. It's terrible, right? And, so you're inviting those people there, right? And the Secret Service, because if you need to see Donald Trump, let me tell you this, right? The Secret Service will check your motherfucker's ass out to make sure that you're okay, that you're not going to come in there, right, and try and clap him down, right, with the butt of a gun or something like that, right? They would make sure that you're not a threat to him. They've got to, right? He's an ex-president, right? They take it very, very serious, right? He's got Secret Service for the rest of his life. That's how serious they take it. Do you know what I mean? So anybody who goes anywhere near Trump, right, has got to be fully checked out, right? So Trump can't just say, well, just walking off the street with Kanye West, But you say, why is Kanye West hanging out, right, with white super? This is a really weird world. It's a mad world. It's a crazy world. I don't know if you've seen these protests in China, but that shit's getting really serious over there. But brought out a lot of police yesterday. Because China's going for this like zero COVID policy, so they want right? But they have not, right? Nowhere in the world, right, have they completely eradicated a flu virus. And obviously that's what COVID is. It's just another form of a flu virus. But there's nowhere in the world that they've eradicated one of those, right? So I don't know what Xi Jinping is playing at. But you see, what's happening in China, is they're seeing, obviously they've been watching some of the football. And they're seeing a load of people with no mask on, and they're like, hold on a minute, what the hell is going on? Because they've always thought that everybody else is still wearing masks all around the world until this World Cup has come up now. And now they're seeing, oh no, people ain't wearing masks. So now they're all out on the street. Well, there was not last night, but a couple of nights from before, they was out on the street. But the Chinese government, they decided to send a lot of police. When I say a lot of police, they had a lot of police out on the streets, like, waiting for these folks. So I don't think many people turned out to go and protest, but quite a few people have been killed over this, because how China is. When they do their lockups, they're very, very serious with it, and they will nail you into your house, right? No messing about. And I don't know if they'll put food for your letterbox, but they'll nail you into your house to keep you indoors. So that situation, let's hope that situation doesn't get any worse. And then we've got the BBC have been taken to task by the Qataris. The Qataris said, you people are damn racist for the way how you're reporting about our country. Right, but then considering that I think around 6,000 migrants have been killed, right? Building those stadiums, right? So, but in the first place, this is something that FIFA should have, if FIFA was going to give Qatar the World Cup, they would have known about this type of thing. They would have known that these people are going to use a lot of migrant labour and this type of thing. So they could have put some, contingencies in, say, listen, this is what you have to do, right? You have to stick to European standards when it comes to health and safety, and we are going to have European monitors over there all the time to watch exactly what you fools are doing. That's what they could have done. Right? So you put all these things in place before, right? But so as I said, but the Qataris, they're quite annoyed in how the BBC have been showing it, and it's not been shown in a good light, and they think the BBC are racist because of that. Rishi Sunak has said the golden age between Britain and China is over. You know what, right? I think because these people, because they've always gone around the world with guns and bombs, right? The West. And China are doing all of this with money, right? It's not as if to say, if China was going round, China was doing how Russia are doing it, then you say, well, but where they're using money, right, these lot are getting really pissed because they know that they're losing their soft power all over the world, right? Everywhere in the world, Britain, right, and America are losing their soft power. Right, and China is taking up the mantle because China's going over there, yeah, and China's building things for people, like modern things for people in their countries, right, and they're using their wealth to do it. And I'm quite sure that that the Aborigines or the Native Americans or the Native New Zealanders or the Native Canadians, which would have been like the Native Americans, so they were like Red Indian, right? All of these natives, right, would have been a lot more pleased, right, if the Chinese had went over in the first place rather than people from the West going over with muskets. I'm sure they would have been a lot more pleased because you know why? They'd have still been alive for a start, right? So, I just look at that story and think to myself, you know what? Britain is just like, obviously, there's a lot of human rights issues in that in China, and I think we've had a British journalist might have been arrested over there, who's been reporting on this, very thing. Do you know what I mean? But but even Britain thinking that it's somehow on par with China, and say, well, you know what? They've got 1 billion people in the country, right? And and Britain thinks it can tell China, and I mean, you just can't tell China anything, and so much of our products rely on China. So yeah, so the golden age between Britain and China is done. Yeah, right. And today is the Battle of Britain. Yeah, or we could say, the Welsh, for the Welsh, it could be all over. And I don't think that, I don't think because they've got to rely on a bit of luck as well. Wales have they'd have to beat England and rely on a bit of luck in the other game. And the other game is like Argentina. Sorry, it's America, right, and Iran. So that's going to be a game full of tension, right? And let me tell you, yeah, Iran is gonna go all out because if Iran beat America, right. Because I'm sure for beating Wales the other day, yeah, they was all given a Rolls Royce each. Right, each player was given. So you can imagine if they beat America, right? And a lot of people, but America's a tiny side. And a lot of people are saying, obviously, because Britain beat Iran 6-2, and then they drew with America, but I don't think people actually realise Iran's a pretty good side. That's why they didn't bust the ass of Wales, unfortunately, right? But because they're a pretty good side, right? So it just shows that 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 England was pretty good to beat Iran like that. So because a draw against America is not too much of a bad result for England, because England don't beat America in the World Cup finals. They never beat them in the World Cup finals, right? So a draw, right, was not a bad result for that. So we'll see what happens in the Battle of Britain tonight. But I think it's going to be a good one. And there's a British museum, right, who is going to give back artifacts, right, looted from Benin City. So that would be the Benin bronzes. I think they've got 70 of them in the Horniman's Museum, which is over in Forest Hill. And the reason why I know that, because I used to deliver there back in the day when I was doing a delivery driver's job. I used to deliver there, right? And yeah, so they're giving back the artifacts, but Britain's got a lot of artifacts all over. I mean, if they start to like take these artifacts out of our museums, right? Our museums will have nothing in there. They'll just have maybe some sacks and tools and all and all that type of shit. Because remember, they've got things like the Rosetta Stone. They've got some Aboriginal bones that the Aborigines actually want back. I'm not sure whether anything for Tutankhamun is over here, because I think that might be in Cairo. But just to check, if you hear some of the, because I was listening to on the radio last night, and if you hear some of the things that some people was coming out with, right? One guy actually come and said, well, I mean, they shouldn't go back, or we should keep them. I mean, and even that the Elgin marbles, which should be called something else, because the guy who brought them back here was called Elgin. So they're not, they're not his. But, when you hear about how these people just talk and say, oh, well, I mean, well, they would have been looted, we took them because they would have been looted. So you looted them because they would have been looted. Yeah, they would have been looted by you because you did loot them. And they will tell you this all over for stuff they've stolen for stuff they've looted from all over the world. And they never wanted to give these things back. In 1963, right, the government took out a law to say that museums was not allowed to give back any African artifacts. Seriously, that's right. But you've got to remember, at that time, it was illegal to be gay, so the gays would have been put in prison at that time, right? So so it was like, in 1963. Seriously, you done that? Yeah, that's what we done in 1963. We brought out a law, so no Africans get their stuff back, because it was ours, isn't it? We took it. It's like the Star of India. But then, there's a lot of controversy around the Star of India, because, a lot of people, I think even Iran has put in and said, listen, that shit belonged to us, right? Before the, the last person to have it before we took it was like the last Punjab king. But I think we probably murdered them or exiled them, because that's what we normally do. Is go over, take their goods and then exile them or murder them, right? But it was a Punjab king, but he had taken it from someone else, and I don't know if it was Iran, but I know Afghanistan also have claims to it. But I've only just heard about Iran's claim to it. But so it's got so much different people got claim to it, and now obviously that's going to make the the people over here say, oh, what, so much people got claim to it. We might as well keep it. We might as well say, what, it's been safe in our hands, right, for all these years, right? It's been safe. Right? And then people say to you, oh, well, if we left them over there, they'll all be dusty and all dirty and all these type of things. So we had to remove them. Let me tell you this, right? If you had a Rembrandt now, right, and you bought it legally, right, and then 2 years later they come and say to you, that Rembrandt used to belong to a Jewish family, so we're going to take it. You think you could say to them, no, this Rembrandt's mine? They'd be like, I don't think so. Right? And even, right, the auction hall where you got it will be like, well, it's out of our hands. And no, you can't get your money back. Like, seriously. Do you know what I mean? So they would never allow you to keep it. Never, ever. Right? That's like you having your next door neighbour's TV after they've just been burgled, and then the police say, well, that's your next door neighbour's TV. How have you got it? And say, well, finders keepers? No. Well, we'll find you a nice cell for you to be in for the next 2 years. And let's speak about some Brexit because I'm already 4 minutes over and I wasn't supposed to go over on this video. So we spoke about a bit this yesterday. 4,000 EU doctors have left the EU. So sorry, have left the UK. A study says Punch. Who the hell is Punch? Why are you getting involved in our business? That's what we should be saying to those people. Stop getting involved in our business. That'd be the best way of it. Brexit has worsened the shortage of UK doctors, analysts show, says The Guardian. And let me tell you, those woke lefties need to keep their mouth out of Brexit, right? Because they never liked Brexit in the first place, so they would say that, wouldn't they? Of course they would. Brexit has intensified the UK shortage of doctors, a study shows, says Euronews. And the people at Euronews are obviously Euro, so obviously they're going to be, they was probably people who would have wanted Britain to remain in the EU. So what the hell would they know? In fact, they're probably biased. Over 40% of British goods have disappeared from European shelves after Brexit, says The Independent. So what are they independent of? So what are you independent of? Right? Because you're not independent of Brexit. I bet they didn't even like Brexit in the first place. And I bet it's probably like 35% of British goods that have left, that have disappeared from EU shelves. And they're probably, because what they're doing is they're talking down Brexit. They shouldn't do that. Goldman, I think this might be Goldman Sachs, I'm not sure, but they said Goldman. There could be another financial services up the West End, city called, was in the city called Goldman, but they have left and moved their traders over to Milan. So really, you've left cold, wet, broke London to go to warm, sunny Milan. How you get one of those jobs? I've got any jobs going at that Goldman place, right? I'll probably, in Milan, I'd probably even compromise myself and go back into the good old-fashioned racist British workplace. Actually, I wouldn't. Anyway, guys, look, I'm 7 minutes over, and that's still a bit much, but it's not as bad as yesterday. So I have to chill. I have to get out of here. So listen, my friends, I'm gonna bow out. This is by any means necessary. I'm the MC John Ribbs. It was really nice to speak to you guys. Comments below.